Happy Wednesday, wonderful people! For tonight, we are going to be watching a quick video on how to wire alternating current circuits. And tonight we won't be wiring them, but instead we'll be learning to diagram. Tonight's objectives will include mostly you understanding how to draw a diagram of a specific circuit board. And tonight we're going to work specifically with source, switch, light. To accomplish our purposes tonight, we need to recall some information that we've already gone over. If you need to reference at any time your ag notebook, please feel free to do so. Please check under the PSTS tab under electricity. What we need to recall is electrical safety, tools we use, as well as vocabulary and the 3 wires within a cable. For review, we know that the hot wire is black, the neutral wire is white, and the ground wire is just copper with no coating. And sometimes we have a second hot wire, which is red. What we need to know is what colored pencils for our diagrams correspond with the correct wires. The black colored pencil corresponds to hot wire, the green colored pencil to the ground wire, the blue colored pencil to the neutral wire, and the red colored pencil to the second hot wire. Some helpful hints to get you started when you start diagramming are: hot wires always go to brass fittings. Silver or aluminum fittings go to the neutral wires, and pigtails, which are a third wire connecting like wires, can go to any wire connection. These two pictures show the differences between an actual circuit board and what a diagram looks like. They are formatted exactly the same, just one is on paper and one is the actual circuit board. For tonight's homework, please reference the diagram in the graphic organizer that I gave you, which is similar to the diagram on the right. Right now, I'm going to demonstrate how to draw a source, switch, light circuit, and then you will practice your own. This diagram should look similar to the one that I gave you in class this morning. This is the diagram that you will be using to diagram the source, switch, light. One of the first things that will help you be really successful in diagramming a circuit board is to label what the screws are, if they're brass, if they're black, or if they're silver. As you can tell, the BR means brass, BL means black, and S means silver. There's also some ground screws, which are indicated by being green. The first thing we have to know is that cables have to go in and out of each box. So for instance, if we look on the left side of the screen, the hot, the neutral, and the ground wires are all attached to the source, which will be our source of electricity, such as an extension cord. And then they funnel into the first cable, which will exit into the switch. But that means we need a second cable so we can exit the switch and enter the light. So now that we know we have 3 wires going into cable 1, there have to be 3 wires coming out. A good place to start is always the ground or the neutral wire. In this case, we're going to start with the ground wire because we see that we have 1 green ground screw. Each cable will have 1 green wire and 1 ground wire. So what are we going to have to do to make sure that they connect and then they connect to the ground screw? So what do we have to do to connect the 2 ground wires to the ground screw? We have to have a third wire, which we call a pigtail, which we talked about a little bit earlier, and we've talked about previously in class. But this pigtail will be wire nutted with the 2 ground wires and then attached around the green ground screw. Now that we have the ground wires totally taken care of for this particular switch, we need to move on to the second wire. The second wire we should use is the neutral wire. Here we know that the neutral wire is not going to attach to anything because two sets of cable are coming into the box. So what do we do? To solve our neutral wire problem, the answer is a wire nut. The two neutral wires need to be bound together so that the flow of electricity continues from the source to the switch and then to the light. So the simple solution is just to wire nut the two wires together. Now we come to the hot wires. Again, we know that one hot wire is coming from cable 1 and one hot wire is coming from cable 2. And lucky for us, we have two brass screws. So what does that mean? You are exactly right. One of the hot wires will attach to one of the brass screws, and the second hot wire will attach to the second brass screw. Here we have a completed circuit. To always double check if you're correct, we should make sure that each cable gives out three different wires, one neutral, one ground, and one hot. In this picture, we have checked our work, and each cable gives out three wires. So now that we've finished wiring the switch, it's now time to move to the light. Again, we know that this cable, cable 2, has three different wires coming out of it, a neutral, a ground, and a hot. So let's start with the obvious choice because we do have a green screw and start with the ground wire. The ground wire should attach to the ground screw, green to green. Now let's move to our second choice. The second choice we should make is probably the neutral wire because we know that neutral always goes to silver or aluminum. In this case, we have a silver screw. That means that our blue wire should go to our silver screw. The final wire we need to attach is our hot wire. And again, we know that hot wires are always attached to brass. And we have a brass screw. So the black should be attached to the brass screw. And one more time we should check our work. Are there three wires coming out of cable 2? And that answer is yes, so we probably have done it correctly. This is what our final circuit board should look like. It should have three wires leaving the source into cable 1 and three wires exiting the source into the switch. From cable 2, it should have three wires entering the switch and three wires exiting into the light. Now it's your turn to try. Please use the graphic organizer that I gave you in class today to do the exact same circuit board that we just modeled. A source, a switch, and a light circuit. Please remember to use the correct color of colored pencils and come prepared with any questions that you have about your experience tonight. Tonight's lesson is really important because the diagram that you drew tonight we're going to use tomorrow morning and actually wire your circuit boards. Now if you don't do it correctly, we're not going to get to see the light bulb light up at the end. So make sure that you try your best and make sure that you have your questions written down for me to check tomorrow before we start wiring boards. See you tomorrow in third period!